I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice. Yeah. Not a game.
Me. Bam. Me, man.
Not a game.
Slap that place, she scored 30.
We talking about sports. I mean, what we even talking about, man? We talking about sports here.
And all I know is who said Harden don't play defense, baby? Oh, yeah, so sweet. I almost thought for a minute I was going to have to come on here after an embarrassing-ass loss and get shitted on for 2 hours.
Would have been bad.
It would have been really bad. I was thinking of moving to Canada over there with Mans. But James Harden with the defensive play of our playoffs so far, the Rockets, game-saving block. Just so crazy that these teams had the exact same record when the season ended and the playoffs started. You know, the trade that was done for Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. Playing against each other.
It was just a lot of pressure, man, on the Rockets. Not obviously up 2-0, and they kind of shit the bed without Russ. No excuse. They won 2 games without Russ. They should have been all right. But I think it gets lost in the sauce, bro, also that, I mean, we were missing a 28 points per game all-star for 4 games of this 7-game series. I mean, any other team is missing their second-best player of the top teams, they're going to struggle. So the fact that it was 2-2 with Russ coming back, I felt good. That game 7 was a fucking roller coaster, man. But honestly, I love the way that it ended. I love the fact that James Harden had a shitty offensive game, 17 points. But the fact that usually you would think James Harden sucks on offense, well, he's not going to affect the game.
Defense.
But my boy with the game-winning block, man, and it was so sweet, bro. It was so sweet. And still a fucking sweat after that with the free throw situation. But golly, I'm thankful to be back on the podcast for episode 18, a winner, baby. A winner. And finally, the series I've been begging for since March, the Lakers. Bring them on.
All right, since you've been begging since March, I want to hear your prediction already. And I want you to stick to that.
My prediction is Rockets in 7.
All right.
Rockets in 7.
Let's do a friendly wager since, I'm a Lakers fan. You're a Rockets fan. I got Lakers in 6.
What happened to 5? 5 minutes ago, you were talking about 5.
No. Roland said he heard on Twitter it was Lakers in 5, Lakers in 6.
A lot of Lakers fans saying in 5.
No, I didn't say that. I said that's what I was going with.
There's a lot of later. And how are you going to say Lakers in 5? Like
I didn't. I said 5 or 6. Hold on. I haven't even started talking yet. I was letting you talk. I was letting you talk. I haven't said anything.
You said you might go with 5, bro. You cannot be comparing the Rockets to the Portland Trail Blazers. Like I'm not. Well, if we're gonna lose in 5, you're comparing us to the Blazers.
No, that's not it at all. That's a false parallel. But I wasn't gonna compliment you on your monologue. That was great. Thank you for leading us into the podcast today. Honestly, I mean, I would be excited. I would be excited about a Game 7 victory. My Spurs are at home, so I don't get that excitement. But nonetheless, I mean, let's just look at it for what it is. It was a Game 7 victory against a team that had no business in the playoffs looking at the beginning of the year with what happened. Okay. A lot of people, I mean, kind of wanted to play the Thunder. I think the Lakers wanted to play the Thunder a little bit more. So let's just look at it for what it is. The Thunder probably weren't going to do much if they advanced anyways, and they took y'all to 7. 4 games, I give you that, without Russell Westbrook. You guys went up 2-0. But the 3 games with him, it's looked kind of shaky, and particularly towards the end. There's problems closing out the games. The offense kind of gets stagnant, kind of what everybody always says happens kind of in the playoffs. It turns into one-on-one, force James Harden to take a 3 or force him to create. Although I will say I commend James Harden on his playmaking ability down the stretch. Yeah. In last night's game, even though he didn't have the points, he was still penetrating at will and trying to find the open guy. It was just whether or not people were hitting. and I still think he did his job nonetheless. I mean, granted, just looking at the box score, and if you're one of those people that just looks at how many points a guy scores at the end of the game, no, I'm not even saying that. If you're just a guy that looks at points as a true indicator of person success, and James Harden doesn't get that block last night, and it goes the other way, it's looking pretty rough for the Houston Rockets, James Harden, that whole organization. So that blocks really swung a lot of things, but it only prolonged the questions for a couple of more weeks, because I was expecting to see the Rockets have a little bit easier of a time with the Thunder. I didn't think the Thunder matched up very well with the Rockets at all coming into this game, into the series. You saw how hard it was for Steven Adams to stay on the floor, and the Rockets still had trouble capitalizing at the end of the game and closing out some of these games. They should have been up 6-0. That's how many games they were up towards the end of the game, or towards the end of the game. So I say all of that to say the Rockets, great job on winning the series. Can't say anything about it. But as far as how you guys are going to fare against the Lakers, I'm probably going to lean Lakers in 6 in this one. I think the Lakers are going to be able to have their way as far as looking for their defensive matchups. I think there's going to be a lot of pick and roll. You're going to see a lot of LeBron James looking for his matchup on the pick and roll, trying to get onto either James Harden or whoever else is on there. And yes, James Harden plays defense. Yes, I get that. He had a game-winning block. I get it. But it's
why downplay the Thunder so much because of a preseason statistic of them making the playoffs?
I brought up.
You said they struggled with a team who wasn't even supposed to be in the playoffs. The fact is they were better than Luka's Mavs, who everybody was jockeying all playoffs. This Thunder team was better than them. They were better than Dame, everybody's superstar, all season.
They had a better record going into the bubble, yes.
No, into the everything. They had a better record the whole season than not just into the bubble. They had a better record. Like they had the exact same record as the Houston Rockets. So I don't understand how you struggled with the Thunder. I mean, they're all different matchups. And with talking about the Lakers matchup, no, I know, but the fact is you can't say they had a 0.4 chance. That's without the season playing out. Yeah, that's like with nothing. You know what I mean? It's like when that team that I suck at saying the name won the English Premier League, Leicester.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what were their chances to win the league? But shit happens. And I mean, they just made a playoff spot. There's 8 of them. But the difference is in that Thunder series, guards, they're quick little guards. We really struggled with Dennis Schroeder. We struggled with Chris Paul and sometimes Shai. For the most part, he had a pretty terrible series. But like you said, Adams was pretty much unplayable against the Rockets. Gallinari had a game or two. The difference is the Lakers have one guy who can penetrate, which is LeBron James. The Thunder had Schroeder, the Thunder had CP3, and the Thunder had Shai. All guys who are bigger defenders, and PJ Tucker and Robert Covington, once they turn their hips, those guards turn their hips, it's pretty much over for them. But they're better against the bigger guys. So with the fact that the Lakers are going to have LeBron James and maybe Rajon Rondo playmaking for them, because when LeBron James goes and sits down, who's going to be playmaking for the Lakers? I just don't think that we struggle guarding them at all when LeBron is sitting down. And yeah, LeBron can hunt for the pick and rolls for the matchup, but he's going to be wanting Harden. He doesn't want PJ Tucker. He doesn't want Covington. He probably doesn't want Gordon. He's either going to want Westbrook or Harden. And we're getting Harden against LeBron. Harden's going to want to compete. So at least on the defensive end, like I said, I'm way less worried about the troubles that the Lakers caused for us. Yes, they are bigger. If they're just going to slow it down, post up JaVale, post up Anthony Davis and Dwight, then let's see how the game plays out like that. But I think that we're in for a surprise with this series. I think it's going to play out a lot more competitive than people think.
I got Lakers in 6.
Yeah, me too. Lakers in 6. I think if the games that get stolen will be game 1, I think the Rockets can get that. And I think Gordon goes back to some shooting woes, and then maybe game 5 just to make it interesting. But then Lakers close it out in 6.
Gordon, he just one game and he's going back to his woes. I was yelling at Gordon the whole series to stop shooting. You know,
I said he'll be back. You know, hit on game
oh,
one a
he's
little
gonna be
bit.
back hitting. But you
And
know,
then after that, back to him.
he was shooting a worse percentage than Lou Dort for the series going into Game 7. 16.8% from 3-point range. And that's a dude who was a 3-point champion at the All-Star break a couple years ago. So crazy. The other series, though, man. My dark horse Miami Heat, they got Giannis in trouble.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're definitely going to get to that for sure.
What's next? What's up?
Well, you know what? Let's just introduce us. This is We Talking About Sports podcast, episode number 18.
Get into it,
we definitely had to give Ben his little platform. Well deserved. The Rockets did what they needed to do.
First round victory.
But I'm not going to let Ben just forget that he was a lot more confident when it was 2-0, saying we don't even need Russ. I'm not going to let Ben forget that. So.
Hey, I was. But do you also
and then
remember?
He was saying, hey, we get Russ and 29 points a game. And
do you also remember?
Russ wasn't 29 points a game either. So
right. But Russ played really well in Game 7.
There's going to be a couple of those games.
Russ played just enough. That wasn't really well. We know whether Russ can play, and that wasn't good enough.
Right.
Well, and it won't be enough for the Lakers.
Listen, well, that's later. That's not right now.
Yeah, I just have to
we were
let us
talking
know.
about seeding prior to the playoffs. Who did I say I didn't want to play? Remember, I said I want to play the Jazz because we eliminated.
You say you don't want the Clippers?
I don't know, but first round it was between the Jazz, the Thunder, and the Nuggets. Those were going to be.
You said Jazz, maybe.
Who I didn't want to play?
I honestly don't remember.
Well, I kept saying I don't want to play the Thunder because we were 3-1. Them beating us 3 times and us only once in the season series. So that is the team that I didn't want to play.
Yeah, and mediocre team got you to 7.
What episode is this?
If that's mediocre, then Luka Doncic is mediocre, man. Dame Lillard.
I don't understand the whole comparison
what
to
episode
another
is this?
team that was in a different series.
I don't see how you
18.
understand. If this team
Episode
is
18?
those guys' teams,
Nice.
I don't see what there is to understand.
If
you're going to say that the Thunder are mediocre and they were a top 5 playoff team.
No one's going to say the Thunder are a great team with the roster they had.
I'm just saying it's a first round victory against a team that didn't have high hopes.
Playoff victories are hard to come by. Congratulations, man. I'm not going to take it away from you.
That's fine, and I conceded that at the very beginning of what I said. But
and if you're right about Rockets in 7, you can let me have it, but I just don't see it for you, my guy.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, you're going to have it.
I'm going to get it if that's the case. Roland, hit us with that NBA news.
What's that? You want to hear some
NBA? With that NBA news?
There's more going on. Honestly, I don't want to change the vibe because we're getting pretty electric right now. But do want to pay my condolences to a legend in the game. He's not particularly an NBA coach or anything, but rest in peace, John Thompson, the legendary coach out of Georgetown, who had coached and fostered a lot of careers in the college ranks of some pretty legendary NBA players, kind of like Allen Iverson, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, a couple of guys that he's coached. But yeah, he recently passed away. I think it's at the age of 78, if I'm not mistaken. First African American coach to win a national championship. So rest in peace and prayers to him and his family. I do just want to mention that before we get back into the swing of things here on the NBA side.
We might as well get our condolences into Lute Olson, also passed recently.
Rest in peace, Lute Olson as well. Arizona. Yep.
Long-time Arizona coach. Coached Gilbert Arenas, Mike Bibby.
Yeah.
Bibby.
Rest in peace.
2020 needs to hurry the fuck up and end, man, because nothing really good has come from 2020 except this We Talking About Sports podcast.
Yeah, I'll give you that, man. 2020 has been rough.
But yeah, just to switch things up again and pick it up into high gear, we got Steve Nash. I don't know. I wasn't waking up expecting to see this news today. I thought this was surprising to me, honestly, and that's because I'm pretty plugged in with the NBA, and I think we all are. Steve Nash, new head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. What do you guys
Roland, I got to ask you something.
What's up?
Very surprising, but what was more surprising for you? The news that Steve Nash was the head coach or the actual reaction to him being the head coach? Because, man, the media and Twitter got away with it.
I mean, today it doesn't surprise me because everybody freaking reacts to everything and looks at it in every single angle and whatnot. And there's some pretty heated debates going on all across every platform on TV. You got Stephen A. saying crazy things. Twitter was going off, obviously. And anytime somebody without experience they gets a job, they're going to start talking about. But, you know, it's something that we've seen in the past. I don't know why people are still complaining. And it's kind of hit or miss on whether or not they're successful. So I see a team taking a chance on them. I don't really bat an eye to it anymore. Like you had Jason Kidd, who was moderately successful in his time with the Nets. Former player, got signed point guard. Who's the other guy? Derek Fisher, I think, had some time. He wasn't that good. Who's doing really? I'm blanking out. I can't believe I'm blanking out on his name. Steve Kerr, former player, got signed with no experience, but he had a front office experience.
Ty Lue took Cleveland and them boys.
Ty Lue, exactly. Mark
Jackson was who you were talking about.
Another guy who didn't really
State
have
got
experience.
that team formed up pretty much.
Yeah, so I mean,
the guy who built the Warriors.
I see the reason for the reaction. I see the reason for the reaction, but I think he's going to be successful. He's coming into a pretty good situation. He's got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Karis LeVert is a stud, DeAndre Jordan, Jared Allen. He's coming into a great situation. So
does a Steve Nash coach signing keep Dinwiddie?
I don't think so. I think Dinwiddie's time in Brooklyn is over.
Okay.
Because somebody paid that Bitcoin fee to get him moved.
He's been throwing hints all over too that he's pretty much out. But man, I'm used to seeing Steve Nash, behind a table talking about soccer games after EPL or even some Champions League games. Fellow Tottenham fan. But I saw it. I was surprised. I thought it made sense.
It does with that roster.
And then I read some of the quotes that they asked D'Antoni about it. Obviously, Steve Nash being one of his most famous point guards. And he said that they said, how much free range would you give Steve Nash inside of your offense? And he said, I'd pretty much give him the scheme, and he was quarterbacking out there. So it makes sense. I think that he's an awesome coach, especially for those guys, a recent player, somebody who they obviously respect. I know Roland had mentioned that Steve Nash was even on the Golden State squad. So was familiar with KD. It seems like KD and Kyrie Irving kind of said, hey, go get us Steve Nash, because this shit was out of left field.
Yeah, it seems like that's what it was. I think you're onto something there.
I mean, nobody even knew he had applied or like.
I don't even know how you apply. I think they just reach out for you.
Yeah, nothing. No David Fizdale talks, nothing. They just Steve Nash pops up out of nowhere. It was surprising. I think it's a good fit. Good for the guy. I didn't watch what you said like earlier today. I know you said Stephen A. Smith was kind of trying to play the race card and saying it was white privilege, but I don't know, man. That's a pretty experienced guy. That's an NBA MVP.
Hall of Famer.
Got all the accolades and a brilliant mind. If you just look today, shit, I was enlightened into some of his highlights, bro. And I don't know if anybody's broken as many ankles as Steve Nash has in the NBA. I was seeing some of his highlights today, bro, and the hair was flowing, baby, and so were the handles.
And they say whenever you hear Steve Nash back in the day, you always thought gym rat. So it makes sense to have him there. I mean,
it's crazy how smooth he was too, bro. I'm telling you, go watch some Steve Nash highlights just to freshen up your memory.
He was the first, like, for video gamers out there, he was like the first annoying like point guard to play against, like, for me, like online and stuff. Like, guys would just move around the 3-point line, chunking the three with Steve Nash. It was like a little Steph Curry before Steph Curry, but I love his game as well. But yeah, I like Steve Nash with Brooklyn. I like him there a lot. I think that team's gonna maybe win a championship next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, we got some awards that came out. John Morant, Rookie of the Year. Brandon Ingram, Most Improved. And Giannis with Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I think we all had those predicted. I think the podcast had even said prior those were our predictions even.
No, I had Anthony Davis winning Defensive Player of the Year. Okay. I believe Roland did too.
Yeah, I had Anthony Davis as well.
That's the one that everybody seemed most upset about. I mean, obviously they would because the Lakers, the media's team. But Giannis won it by a landslide. He actually won it pretty. I mean, he didn't win it like John Morant did, 99 first place vote to Zion's 1 first place vote. That was pretty. That was pretty bad. And then the other one, the most improved, Brandon Ingram gets it over Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo right now, we're going to talk about that series a little later, but the Heat have some dogs on their team, man. But the defensive player of the year, and he didn't have a play that would define defensive player of the year at the ending of game 2. I know we'll get into that later, but it's pretty cool. They need to hurry up and give him the MVP, bro, before he fucking gets swept. Is all I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's gonna look bad. It's gonna look bad if he gets swept.
They need to announce MVP like tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, today Jay Williams said LeBron James was Scottie Pippen to D Wade's Michael Jordan, and then LeBron said, "Hey man, all I've ever been was myself. Why the f are you even bringing me into this subject matter?" You know what? And I don't like it. I don't like the fact that LeBron's on Twitter right now. I was hoping to get that 0 Dark 30 LeBron just plugged in, ready to go, off the feeds, just wanting to win. But this playoff bubble's different, and I guess LeBron's got to see it. Everywhere he goes, he's probably got the TVs as far as being in the bubble when he's hanging out. So I guess it's unavoidable at this point. He's not at home where he can cater to himself and get locked in like that.
I'm with you there. I'm sure LeBron's pretty plugged in right now. I think he even came out and said that he wasn't doing the 0 Dark 23 thing that he usually does, where he shuts everything off for the playoffs, like all of his socials and all of that stuff. He usually just goes dark. And he said he wasn't doing that this year because of all the things that were going on with the social injustices and whatnot. But this whole exchange on Twitter, I find it hilarious, though, because the person who started all of this was Richard Jefferson. He tweeted out saying that Giannis might be a Scottie Pippen, kind of like as a dig to Giannis, saying that.
Is it a dig?
Yeah, it's a dig.
I mean, how Scotty's a Hall of Fame?
It's a dig because Scotty's not number one, and he's saying and as much as Giannis is on there, he's not number one.
Scotty would have been a number one on any other team except with Jordan.
But he's saying
the facts of the facts is that Scotty was not number one,
and he's saying that he can't be a number one and win a championship. That's kind of what he's saying, all in one with that little tweet right there.
Is he wrong?
I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying that was pretty funny. Yeah, I thought it was weird that he even said that, and freaking Scottie Pippen flamed him and said, yeah, he's like, I'm not even Giannis. Giannis is going to go back-to-back MVP. He's like, at least I'm who I am or whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's like, what kind of player were you? Or he's like, what kind of accolades do you have as a player? Or some shit like that to Richard Jefferson. So I thought that was pretty funny. He got flamed for even bringing it up, but the whole thing about LeBron being a Pippen is everybody wants to bring up the fact that the first time that he won a championship, he needed Dwayne Wade to get it done. Rightfully so, but I think that they only won the championship because LeBron was the alpha on that team. And that's the reason why they went back-to-back. He needed the extra help. He wasn't getting that in Cleveland. I don't even think he had anybody that he could call a Robin in Cleveland. Boobie Gibson, Anderson Varejao, no disrespect.
Big Z.
Big Eric Snow. Who was the other guy? Hughes, Drew Gooden. I mean, come on. He needed extra help, but people were trying to make it seem like he was kind of like deferring to Dwayne Wade. And that's where if I were LeBron, I'd be like, yo, I don't even know what you're talking about.
I think that might have been the case that first finals with the Heat, but clearly after he got all that blowback off of sitting in the corner, that series against the Mavs, when the Mavs beat them, that following year when they won the title, I think it was safe to say that it was LeBron's team that second year. And he, even in interviews, he had said that it was due to, that was my first year in Miami. That was D Wade's team. That's why I was sitting in the corner. Kind of like he was Robin that first year, but I mean, they didn't win the title.
Yeah, they didn't win it.
Yeah, they didn't win the title. I'm just happy he's on social media, bro.
I think it's a distraction. He's going to help your Rockets.
Hey, you know who's not on social media? James Harden.
He's probably on a burner or something. Who do you think?
He's on.
Who do you think
he's
he
on the
brought
burner.
into the bubble? Do you know who he brought into the bubble? James Harden?
Shit, I don't know who he brought into the bubble. I think they said it was like just like a trophy case holder for the title at the end of the year.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, no.
Hey, Justin, I already know when we fucking beat you all, bro, Justin's going to be like, hey, guys, I can't record today. You're going to hit me with something like that.
When have I ever been?
I can't record
today.
You haven't, but
It's
the
gonna
Rockets
be-
haven't
it's
beaten
gonna
the
be-
Lakers yet, brother.
It's
Wait,
gonna
Bro, if that happens, I'll face the music.
It's gonna be rough for you, brother. It's gonna be rough for you.
No, it's not. Why? We're not even supposed to win. Why is it gonna be
Dude,
rough?
oh, you can't cop that, dude. That was what
I'm
you
not. I have us winning in 7.
Oh, did you just? Did you
I
hear
have us
what he
winning in
just
7,
said,
and I even have a couple of wagers. So
Justin, did you hear what he just said?
I didn't hear it.
7.
He's just saying Lakers, or he's saying Rockets in 7 or whatever, and then he's like, "Oh, we're not even supposed to win." That's his cop out.
That's his little frame up of like, hey,
Bro,
dude, never mind.
that's why he was like, "Oh,
There's no
Oklahoma is a
cop-out,
great team. They're better than
why
Dallas."
don't you enlighten us on the Vegas odds for the series, Roland?
It's okay. It's
Why don't-
okay.
Huh? No, you don't want to
No,
talk
But
about
it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
You don't want to talk
We're
about
talking
the
right
odds?
now. We'll talk about the Vegas odds, but it shouldn't matter to a fan like you.
I have us winning in 7. I don't understand what the problem is.
Dude,
But you're
No,
let's
because
not act like we're the favorites.
what I'm
Let's not act
saying
like we're the
is
favorites coming into
you're gonna
this.
use that. You're gonna use
No,
that. when
no,
you guys
there's no
come
excuses. I've been begging for this
Okay.
series. There's no excuses.
So then it will be rough for you. Even you can't comp that. Oh, we're not even supposed to be here against these guys.
Rough would
It's a
have been
blessing to be in this game 7.
Ruff
It's a blessing.
would have been losing to CP3 in the first round, bro. That would have been rough. Okay? That would have been rough. Fucking rough, bro.
Okay, but I'm saying if you guys lose like in anything less than like an
If we lose in 5,
6 or
it's gonna be fucking rough.
That's what I'm saying.
If we go
If
out
it's
like
not
James
honorable-
and bitch-ass Blazers, yeah, it's gonna be rough. But if we lose in 7, it's not gonna be rough because y'all everybody has
Okay, we've seen some crazy elimination.
All you're doing right now is softening the blow for
I'm not
when it
talking
happens.
shit. I expect us to win. If we lose in 5, if we get swept, that's fucking unacceptable. We're terrible.
I think y'all might be terrible then.
Yeah, well then pick 5. Don't pick 6, buddy.
Oh, okay, buddy. That was intense.
How was that intense? I called you buddy. There's nothing intense about the word buddy.
That look was intense, boy.
Oh man, I told you.
All right,
it
I
was
just
gonna
don't
be
want to
electric.
hear
Hey,
anything.
This podcast got
that's how the
electric.
Lakers are going to be backing out when Russ is going.
I don't
down
want to
the
hear
lane.
any Cinderella story
Russ,
out of the Rockets.
Russ, you're too intense for us. That's going to be AD. No,
All right,
coach, I
let's-
don't want to play the 5, coach. PJ's a fucking dog, coach. I don't want to fucking play the 5, coach. Put Dwight in. Put Dwight in to poke some assholes.
Oh, whoa!
You're gonna need a burner after this one.
Shit.
He already has a burner.
I know. You're gonna need to use it more. You're gonna need
We're
to
gonna
go
find
to
that burner soon.
Hey, it's getting the check mark right now. I just paid to have it with the check mark. That way it doesn't
Get it
really look
verified.
like it. Yeah.
All right, let's go Eastern Conference. I know you're wanting to talk about this. You were already alluding to it earlier. Your
Hell
boys,
yeah,
the
I
Miami
wanna
Heat,
talk
your
about
dogs, your guys,
My dark horse.
your dark horse.
My
2-0, up 2-0.
the team I picked to
Jimmy
represent.
Buckets hits them free throws on double zeros to get the win. It doesn't look good for the Bucks. It really doesn't. Ben, I gotta ask you: were
What
you
a
part of that beating the bookie plus 10,000 preseason taking the Heat? Is that why you want the Heat so bad?
I definitely didn't. No, I definitely didn't have the Heat preseason, but in watching them play and just they really get down, bro. They get down on defense. They get down on defense, and then they have a couple white dudes in Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero that just
You're invested then because you got Tyler Hero.
we just come here and hit shots, kind of hold our own. If Duncan Robinson isn't on the floor, Tyler Hero's on the floor, or vice versa. But man, bro, with Adebayo, with Butler, and Jay Crowder might just be the Giannis stopper. Jay Crowder's been doing a hell of a job. Jay Crowder's been knocking down jumpers as well. But one big thing, bro, and seeing in game 2, which was a little bit tighter than game 1, the Heat called a timeout, And Jimmy Butler went straight to Spoelstra and told him, hey, I got Giannis on these last couple possessions. Because normally it's Jay Crowder, but I'm telling you, bro, that guy, that's who you want leading, man. That's who you want leading your team. And we say he's not the offensive guy, but that game one performance with 40 points, that surprised the shit out of me. I didn't see.
You know what was even more surprising for me?
What was that?
Game 2, he's only like 10 points going into the fourth, and they're still going to get this dub.
And they're winning.
What do you say then? I mean, golly. They're in trouble, bro. Milwaukee's in trouble.
And it's not.
They're not getting out of this.
It's not because Milwaukee's really been playing like that bad. I think Milwaukee's been playing some pretty good ball, other than Giannis, who hasn't been putting up more than 18 or 19 points. I mean, he's not getting you the 30 that he's getting in the regular season, but that's been a known thing for him in the playoffs. Teams know how to D him up in the playoffs. There's a blueprint maybe out there. I don't know. Maybe he's going to come out and blow that out of the water in these next couple of games. But the Heat have gotten some of the Bucks' best shots, I think. So I think this one's pretty much. Oh man, it's hard for me to say it's over on the best record in the NBA, but we'll see. I'm saying the panic mode should be at least at an 8 or a 9 if you're a Bucks fan. I think you should be really worried. If it doesn't recover to be at least a 6-game series, you really got to wonder if Giannis has one foot out the door, as we've been saying for the past couple of weeks on the podcast, that he might be looking elsewhere in terms of free agency. But yeah, man, I got to give Ben props. He's been on the Heat for a couple of months now. I want to say they're a really good ball club. I'm not going to say I've been on them, but I do like their squad. I like the makeup of their team. I like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. And Bam Adebayo, man, is another guy that you can just play him almost anywhere in a league that's predicated on pick and rolls. You can switch them on just about anybody. That's not going to be a matchup problem. Props to Goran Dragic and Kendrick Nunn for playing big time too.
Dragic you mentioned.
So he's been a little, blessing in disguise for them. He's a big name, but kind of has deferred to Kendrick Nunn as the main point guard on that team. But Goran Dragic's going to go in and give you buckets, man. So and make the right plays and everything.
Dragic had 27 in game 1 and 23 in game 2. Yeah. He wasn't the starter in the regular season. Kendrick Nunn, like you alluded to, was actually starting. But come playoffs, it's been Dragic. Also, Nunn had left the bubble or he was injured with the return. So Dragic has taken advantage, and he's the veteran, bro. A lot of teams. He's killed a couple of teams. He's burnt a couple of teams in the past. A very streaky guy and crafty lefty.
He single-handedly beat the Spurs in one playoff series by himself, like dropping 40 in 2 or 3 games.
I know he's got in the Celtics a couple times as well. So, but man, the Heat look determined, bro. The Heat look determined. We know that they're well coached.
So winning franchise.
They got a big coaching advantage. I don't know about Budenholzer, whatever his name is.
What do you guys think about the end of the game call that led to the game-winning free throws? I thought it was kind of weak sauce.
I was okay with it because you called it on the other end. You got to call it on this end.
That Middleton 3 was even weaker.
Yeah.
Giannis had his hand on
it.
That ref is going to have a hard time in the bubble right now, seeing every player and look them in the face.
Watching that Rockets game, did you see the spots where Scott Foster was coming in from to make some of the calls? I don't know if y'all noticed.
Him and CP3 looked like they were homies that game.
I hate refs like that, man.
He was like that. The ref in the movies, bro, that come in running like with the blocking charge from the other side of the court.
Hey, do the blocking charge again. I want to see that again.
Like, hey, homie, this is not your call. You're on the other fucking side of the court.
So, go for it. What do you think about all the talk about, like the anonymous talk about Giannis not being like a true lockdown defender? Like he's not like that. He shouldn't be defensive player of the year, essentially, is what these comments were alluding to. Personally, I think Giannis is an all-world defender. He's an all-world off-ball defender. I mean, that's what he does great. Like, he comes in and swats the living fuck out of you. If you're driving in, he's going to block you a lot of the time. And even one-on-one, if you try driving on him, I've seen him stuff guys trying to go to the rim on him. So I think he's a good defender. I don't really put too much credence on those comments as far as he was scared to switch on to Jimmy Butler, or what they were trying to allude to there.
He
Also,
should have though, Roland. He should have.
I agree.
Why is just a defensive player guarding a guy that's got 40?
Hey, if that's the scheme and they want him to protect the rim or trying to do help defense or whatever they were trying to do.
So he's the best weak side defender. He's the best help defender. Like, is that what we're saying?
I'm gonna say next time he needs to get on him. Most times I would agree with you, but this is the first time that I think there's been some talk about this with Giannis, so I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. If he comes in again and doesn't switch onto him in a game-deciding moment, then I think there's a problem. Because you're right. If you're the best defensive player in the league, you should defend the guy that's killing your team.
Once Jimmy hit 30, hey coach, all right, I got
unless you're a center though, like unless you're like, for example, like if you're I can't think of it. Dwight Howard is not going to go out and switch.
No, but he can guard 1 through 5. Giannis can guard 1 through 5.
He can. So yeah, it's a different argument with Giannis.
And like I mentioned, Jimmy Butler took on the challenge in game 2 when it was close. He went up to Spoelstra and said, "Hey, I got him. So he has to have the dog in him, bro. Shit, he's gonna face some criticism, and it might make him do something perfect in the offseason.
They can't get swept or go down in 5. They have to at least make this a 6 game. Even if they
imagine getting swept and winning defensive player and MVP that year. That would be wild.
And I think that's it sucks that they said that before the bubble even started, that these games wouldn't count towards MVP or any of these awards. So I mean, he had it baked in prior to all of this because of the year that he was having, but man, it hasn't looked good for him. They got the whole excuse in the bubble that, hey, they were kind of just chilling for the first round because they had it locked up, and then kind of get a little scared by the Magic in the first round. But
Bledsoe has also been out too. I mean, I'm not the biggest Bledsoe fan, but he is a starter, and he usually does contribute. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, the other series today was the Celtics and the Raptors, and the Celtics were hoping to go and get this commanding lead of 3-0. Last minute shot. Raptors go, knock it down.
Who hit it? Who hit it?
Your boy, what's his name? The replacement.
Anunoby.
Yeah, I couldn't say his name. His last name.
That's the only reason I was asking you, bro.
2-1 is the series, and I still think the series is a wrap now. I was on the Raptors, but even this game, I saw when they were first quarter, Celtics were down quite a bit, and they come back again, get themselves back to even by the end of the first. I see the Celtics just being a little too much for the Raptors. It took a buzzer beater to get a game here. At best, maybe they win one more, but I don't think so. I don't know. I think it's going to be 4-1 here.
Man, it hurts me. I said it when they went up 2-0. It hurts me because I picked the Celtics as my dark horse before the bubble started, or before the playoffs started, as my team that I thought could challenge the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. But then I backed off of it after I saw kind of how the Raptors got
the Rockets, baby. I know you saw it.
I was looking at your jersey.
I know you saw it.
But how good of a start the Raptors got off to, so I kind of backed off of them. So I can't take too much. I'm not even going to take any credit for this because I can't flop again. But man, the Celtics are going to win the series. I don't care. The Celtics are going to win the series, man. They're up 2-1. After what I've seen, I just don't think the Raptors are going to be able to do it, man. I think the Celtics have too many weapons on the perimeter. When I was saying that I thought the Raptors had too many guys to throw at Jason Tatum, I was wrong. I think it was the other way around. I think the Celtics have too many perimeter guys that match up well with the Raptors. I wasn't looking at it right. The Celtics have too many guys that can make life difficult for Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, and Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam has been flat out struggling in the first half of this series. I don't think he's scored over 20 yet. Fred VanVleet had his first good game in this victory. He had 25 points. And actually, the two guys that I've said that they have guys to match up with had 31 and 25. But that's what it's going to take. And I don't think that's going to happen 3 more times for the Raptors. So I really don't care if I flip or flop because it's whatever, man. I'm just out here having fun. So I like the Celtics, man. I'm sorry. I like the Celtics. I like them a lot. I like a lot of their players. It's whatever.
That recency bias that made you flip flop is the same recency bias that had you calling Dame a superstar. Cause that's the same recency bias.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give you that. Dame.
And I fell into it also with the whole some teams are sucking.
You're falling into it right now with your Rockets.
No, we're in the playoffs already, baby. This ain't no more bubble.
It's a round one victory.
This is the playoffs
against the Thunder.
This is the first time Russell Westbrook has been out of the first round since 2016, bro. It's big. It's supposed to be celebrated.
I know, but I'm saying you're parlaying that into saying that they're going to beat the Lakers.
Oh, I've been saying that since March, cuz that ain't new. I'm just keeping the same tune, baby.
I feel you on the Dame thing though. And yeah, I saw the Raptors and I was like, man, they look like the team that went to the championship last year just without Kawhi, and maybe one of these guys takes the next step up. But just from what I've seen in the series, I think the defensive matchups on the perimeter favor, even after this game, that these guys had 31 and 25 more times or not, they're going to favor the Celtics in this series. So that's where I'm going to go.
The biggest takeaway that I've seen in that series is the ability not to exploit Kemba Walker for the Raptors. And I think that's just because when you play with two small guards like Van Fleet and Kyle Lowry, yeah, they're going to get the switch on a smaller. I mean, Kemba's going to be guarding one of them regardless. Mm-hmm. But who else are you going to be switching with to abuse Kemba? It would have been Kawhi. Had Kawhi still been there, they would have been running that till Kemba got worn out of the series. But with Van Fleet and with Lowry, and especially with them not hitting their shots in the first two games, like you said today, they finally came alive. But they're going to have to be hitting their threes. They're very undersized. And Siakam, bro, I mean, they're trying to post him up, and that just ain't it.
They need Siakam to hit some shots, man.
Shots. Yeah, don't post him. They're trying to have him post up Tatum and shit. Like, that's not going to work, bro. You don't have that game. He's more of a slasher, and he does need to knock down some shots. I had the Raptors winning this series against the Celtics. I don't think that they do. However, I think that it can get dragged out to be 6-7 games. Don't stick a fork in them like the Bucks.
Yeah. No.
Stick a fork in the Bucks.
It's still a competitive series, but I'm just saying I think the Celtics are going to win this series.
Yeah, I agree.
Competitive series, though. I think I'm glad that you brought that up because I'm not sticking a fork in the Raptors. I'm just saying, Matt, I like the Celtics. I'm sorry. I like the Celtics a lot. What about you, Justin?
To the West, our Celtics
are your arch rivals. Your arch rivals.
Yeah. No, I had Celtics. I originally had the Raptors earlier in the podcast, but like I said, seeing what I saw today, especially, it took the winner to get it. So Celtics going to get this. Let's move on to the West. I know we already talked about the Lakers and the Rockets at the start of this podcast, but the other side is the Clippers and the Nuggets. First game today, 1-0. Clippers went up. I know Ben said earlier he thinks gentlemen sweep for that game. Roland, do you see anything different than that series?
Man, it's very hard for me to disagree just because I don't see how it's going to happen. It's going to take another Herculean effort from Jamal Murray to even maybe get them a game. He's going to have to drop a 50-piece or something. I mean, I think it's possible because we've seen the Clippers kind of have trouble when Patrick Beverly isn't the primary defender out there. Luka was having his way a little bit there in that last series. So, okay, if he's back, so
yeah, he's back.
We'll see. I think he might be able to get something off, but yeah, I think it's going to be a sweep, 4-0. Give me the Clippers. I think they're finally going to start to click a little bit, and they got their confidence going. And this just really isn't a good matchup for the Nuggets unless they just try and go the opposite of small ball and just play Porter, Jokic, Millsap, and Bol all at the same time, and then Jamal Murray at point guard, and just go 4 in, 1 out.
Bol is the Kawhi kryptonite, bro.
Yeah, Murray ended up with 12 points today. So
Listen, Jamal Murray, there's no heroics out of Jamal Murray in this series. None whatsoever. He can't finish around the rim the way that Luka can. That was the big success that Luka had. Like, as far as many moves, yeah, he can finish layups, but Jamal Murray's not going to be posting up any of the Clippers players. No, for sure. Elite shot taker. But, bro, how much did they leave in that series, though? Like, man, from him, he had multiple 50-point games. Like, he left it all out there. And then to have to come and be checked by Patrick Beverley, Kawhi, or Paul George and be that young of a guy, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say gentleman's sweep just because the Clippers have seemed disinterested in some games, and I could see that happening maybe just one game, the Nuggets getting off to an early lead and just running with it. But, yeah, at best, 5 games, more than likely a sweep.
All right, well, that's it for the NBA playoff bubble.
Not much interest in that series at all.
Any other takes y'all want to hit on the NBA before we close that out?
I wanted to mention jokingly, I mean, let me just shit on Paul George, but if that was Paul George closing out on Lou Dort, is that a bucket or what?
Probably, man. He probably doesn't get there in time.
It's a bucket, and Paul says that's a bad shot either way.
Hey, Paul says, hey, we live with Lou Dort shooting at the end, right? Crazy, bro. The game that Lou Dort had yesterday, he put his name 30 in the record book with Kobe and LeBron.
Yeah, man. I mean, Kobe, we were texting back and forth, and I was like, man, this dude's shooting tonight.
Yeah. Hey, we didn't podcast after Game 6. What did y'all think of Chris Paul's comments after the game? Some of us are built for this. You know, they came back in the fourth quarter, and he did take over in the fourth quarter of Game 6.
Chris Paul, you know him.
Yeah.
You think those were direct shots? You think those were aimed at somebody in particular? Or
I'll call them playoff shots, you know, just trying to get in the heads of his opponents.
Chris Paul talks a lot of shit, and I think he holds grudges too. I don't think he likes the way things ended in Houston, and I don't think he likes the fact that people wrote him off when he went to Oklahoma City. I know I brought up at the very beginning of this NBA talk that they had a 0.4 chance to make the playoffs or whatever, 0.4% chance to make the playoffs. People did not think very highly of this team. So he always has that chip on his shoulder. That's just the way Chris Paul operates.
And everybody had him getting traded also, though. Nobody had him finishing the season with the Thunder, to be fair.
Exactly. Nobody had him finishing the season with the Thunder. So I think
he had 2 points in the fourth quarter of Game 7.
Yeah.
So after his heroics in Game 7, 2 points. Now, my final question on Chris Paul, where do you all see him at next year? He put out a social media message today. It looked like it was the last time he was wearing a Thunder jersey was in the playoffs. It looks like he's on his way out.
Yeah.
I've heard 2 interesting landing spots, but I'll give them to y'all after y'all tell me where you might see him ending up.
I wouldn't mind seeing him in that purple and gold just because I wanted it that first time before the NBA rejected the trade, saying the Hornets couldn't do it because they were owned by the NBA and it wasn't in their interest. So I would like to see him.
You'd have to be taking up his $40 million a year contract. So
that's what I was hoping, is that he's not going to be asking for that max deal like that.
Well, he's under a deal, cuz there's no asking.
Oh, he's under a deal? Yeah. Then never mind. I thought it was his contract up and he was going to do
Where
something.
Where do you think, Roland?
Chase a championship.
I think he's not going to be with the Thunder for sure. I agree there. Man, give me Miami. I think that's where he's going to end up. I think
that's one of the teams that's been thrown out. Miami.
I think he was linked to Miami prior to this year. If I remember reading correctly in the articles last year when this whole free agency trade, whatever thing was going down, and they have room. And they're in win now mode with the group of guys that they have, or they just found out that they are at least. I don't think they expected to be this good this early, but they're like, shit, hey, have a chance. We can add a piece. We have the space to do it. Pat Riley's a winner. Spoelstra's a winner. Let's get it done.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely, just because it was linked. I think the Heat just had questions of, is Chris Paul still a max player in 2020? I think he might have. I don't think he's worth $40 million, but I think that he could definitely help the Heat, especially, controlling the flow of the game. For the most part, he always makes the right play. the other team that was linked was the Milwaukee Bucks.
That makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, so those were the two teams that they had him linked to, but it's pretty 100% sure that he won't be a Thunder. He won't be on the Thunder.
Another good reason to note why it's a good reason that he might end up with the Heat is that this is Goran Dragic's last year on his contract. So he's an unrestricted free agent after this year. So they're going to be in need of.
They have a bunch of assets too, man. They have a lot of. I know that they didn't want to get rid of. I know Tyler Hero was one of the big names that was in that CP3 because it was going to have to be a trade earlier in the year. I'm big on him, but I could see either him or maybe Duncan Robinson, one of the two, being in the deal. I know Duncan Robinson also has emerged for the Heat. As it's going to take a package, bro. It's going to take a pretty good package, and the good thing is the Heat do have assets right now.
All right.
That's another landing spot that I heard for Giannis potentially. I saw that floating around. So
that would be not that much spacing with Jimmy and him. I will say that.
Yeah.
But
clamps.
All right,
for sure.
Sounds good. Well, that's good. That's up for the NBA. All right, let's get into some NFL quick hitters. But before we do, we got a special guest to the podcast, Robert Gray. He's kind of our NFC West aficionado. Robert, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm more of a resident Arizona Cardinals fan here, but definitely, for better or worse, had the experience with the rest of the NFC West. So I'm happy to be here, ready to see what I can say about the Cardinals. It's a good season to be here to talk about the Cardinals compared to the past couple other ones. So ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's get into this. We're going to start off with some quick hitters. Friendly bet of the podcast we had earlier in the early podcast was between Roland and Ben, and it was Cam Newton versus Jarrett Stidham. Ben said Stidham would start. Roland said friendly bet. I got Newton. Sure enough, came calling today. Cam Newton starting. What do y'all think about that?
Hey, I'm glad to hear it. It means I won the bet, but it just, from the beginning, it just made sense to me. Like, you're not going out of your way to bring this guy in for him not to be your starter. So I'm glad to hear, Bill Belichick coming out and saying that he's the first guy in, last guy out, really just speaks to his work ethic. And, one of the things that Ben brought up in him not wanting to pick Cam as a starter is, him having to come in and learn that offense with the Patriots. But he, kind of proved himself in practice and proved himself in the study room. So, yeah, I'm glad to see him be the starter, see what he can do for them.
Yeah, it was good to hear. It was also good to hear that it was a friendly wager, and Roland said we didn't even wager anything.
No, I don't remember. I don't remember. We can go check the tapes. But.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to check the tapes or not check the tapes if Roland wants to go back through them so I can pay up. But to be fair, I did come in asking, what do I owe?
Yeah, you did.
So I am glad to see Cam got the job. I felt like he might have just been a little bit blackballed or teams given up on him. I never questioned that he could be the starter. I mean, I think that he's better than Stidham, but the offense was, like I said, complicated, and I just thought it would take more time. But I think this deads all the conversations about the Patriots possibly tanking with them going with Cam Newton. So I still think the Bills are the favorite in the division, but I definitely think that the Patriots, with naming Cam the starter, made it a lot closer than it was.
What about you, Rob? What do you think about that announcement?
Yeah, I love Cam Newton, man. I think people who disrespect Cam aren't watching enough of him. The injuries that he's had are definitely unfortunate, but the dude had one of the best seasons we've seen when he won MVP a couple years ago. It's just freak athlete with a cannon for an arm, and he can just run across the field and runs like a running back. So if he's healthy, he can easily win the Patriots 10 games with Bill Belichick coaching that defense.
Yeah, the only thing that comes in for me on the Patriots, I guess, as a whole, and just moving away from Cam Newton, because I agree with all your points, Robert. I love Cam Newton myself, but the Patriots have had a lot of guys opt out due to COVID and some big names.
For sure.
So I don't know if Cam Newton becoming the starter is going to be enough to overcome that. And it's been some good names on their defense that have opted out. Donta Hightower is one, and I know Patrick Chung is another, even though they're loaded in the secondary. So we'll see, though. We'll see.
Something else that kind of flew under the radar, but remember they traded a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu, and they cut him a couple of days ago. Or a day ago.
Well,
I think yesterday.
So that was a big miss also, man. That was a pretty high draft pick that they had invested in a guy like Sanu, which a lot of people saw the potential because he was going with Brady, but I've never really showed any promise at all, to be honest.
Yeah, the joke around Twitter is that the Cardinals paid the same for DeAndre Hopkins as the Patriots paid for Mohamed Sanu. So
let's hope
that.
Hopkins doesn't fall off.
Right.
I
think the Patriots changed the mindsets from going to win now with Tom Brady for another year to let's try to rebuild with some new pieces. But Bill Belichick's still their coach, so he's the best coach of all time, so he can win by himself.
And it's going to be a big prove me year, too, just like everybody's saying for Tom Brady. I'm sure Bill Belichick, I know he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, but he wants to dead all conversations of who was more important or who the common denominator is, him or Tom Brady in those Patriot championships. So
Cam's contract was 1 year only, or
1 year?
1 year?
I think it's a 1 year.
All right. Well, I'm glad you said that because one of the teams we're about to talk about will be linked this year no matter what to the Patriots, and that's the Buccaneers.
Transitions.
The news, there you go, transition. The news there is Leonard Fournette to the Bucs. I think it's a 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. But today, Bruce Arians did say Rojo, in his words, will still be their starter despite Leonard joining the team. What do you think about that? Should Leonard have gotten that, or is he right to go with Ronald Jones, who actually knows the offense already?
Shit, I mean, I think that it's just a matter of time before Fournette's the starter. I think it's crazy that he passed all waivers and nobody claimed him. I'm not sure how that works financially, if it's like his prior deal or how exactly that works. But I thought that the Bears were a good fit for him when he did get released with their running back going down to injury. I don't know how serious it is, but they did say he's going to be out for a while, man. But the rich get richer. To me, it just baffles me how everybody was clowning on the Bucs last year with Jameis Winston at the helm, throwing 30 interceptions. And this year, Tampa Bay is the fucking hot spot. And not a COVID hot spot, but just where everybody is going to chase the title, it looks like. They're all in down in Tampa. It's crazy, the turnaround. And, I mean, that's what Brady does. Similar to like LeBron and NBA, like the stars in any sport, I guess, they get followed. So let's see. I think it is title or bust now with all these signings that they're doing. Not that they're investing crazy amount of money like this 1 year deal, but you got to think it's title or bust for the Bucs this year.
Does Leonard Fournette get over 1,000 yards this year?
That's tough to say. I think y'all made a good point about how he's not being the starter right away. And with my experience from Bruce Arians coaching the Cardinals is that he likes to ease people in really slowly, especially when they're new to his system. So I think it'll be like week 6 until we really see Fournette start getting a lion's share of carries. So I don't see 1,000 yards just because of that, but I do think he's going to be really productive for them. I mean, he was really productive last year for the Jaguars. So he rushed for like 1,200 yards.
Injuries just derailed him last year. I remember he had a hamstring injury, and as soon as he got back, like 3 weeks after, or like a week after that injury, they were just running him to the ground, and he got hurt again. So durability definitely something that's come up with Leonard Fournette, kind of the reason why he wasn't a keeper with the Jags, among other reasons. I think they were just trying to clean house. They went over the number of guys that they've lost in the past couple of years, and it's just ridiculous, especially the number of guys from that defense. But Leonard Fournette, kind of interesting situation to me. I'm going to defer to Robert and his experience with Bruce Arians. So and considering that he's coming in late in the game in the offseason, I think this is going to be a big move, but the numbers for Fournette probably won't be there this year. So, but like Ben said also, the rich get richer. So Leonard Fournette, LaShawn McCoy, and Ronald Jones, those are all pretty good running backs. So they got a trio of guys back there that are going to be able to help out Brady.
All right. Well, Clowney, we're starting to get some more talk around him, and now it's the Saints and the Titans who are pushing to sign him. You know, he did that whole bet on myself, hoping to get the big contract, has still not found a team. Where do you guys see him? You see him with either of these two teams, or is he going to be back somewhere else? Maybe even home, Houston, who knows?
8 days from the season opener, and this dude who wants over $100 million still isn't signed, man. It's pretty wild to me.
Yeah, man.
I was pretty pissed about it as a Texans fan when it happened, when they didn't want to pay him. because I saw how disruptive he was. Seahawks fans, it was another joke that they stole him from us because it was like Jacob Martin and I believe a third or second round pick that we gave him for Clowney. But I mean, it seems it was a rental for the Seahawks. And now, like you said, the dude bet on himself. My guess is he ends up back with the Titans due to Vrabel being with the Texans and coaching Clowney for a year, I believe that he was there. So that's going to be my pick. I think that he's going to end up signing with the Titans. I hope he doesn't go with the Saints. That would
he fits that Titans defense, right? They run his scheme.
It's the same scheme that he ran with the Texans.
It's unfortunate for him because, like Ben said, he bet on himself, and his price tag was at $20 million, and I think I've heard it recently is dropped to somewhere in the $15 million range. So that's a handsome haircut when you're talking about over the course of 5 years. But just reading this article and just looking at where the teams are at, I think he's going to end up with the Saints. Sounds like the Saints are really going after him. And the Saints are in prove me mode. Not prove me mode, but they're in an all-out mode right now. They're all in. They're trying to win with this last year that they have Drew Brees in there. And why not go after Clowney for another year and just get him on a rental? I think that's kind of what this article is pointing to. It says they're sending an all-out blitz trying to get him. So I think Sean Payton's going to find a way to get him on his defense, and we'll see if this is the year that the Saints finally get over the hump.
What about you, Robert? Where do you see him landing?
Yeah, I think the Titans will be scary. I think the Titans have a really good defense. I think Derrick Henry running the ball for them. I don't know, man. I think the Titans would make a lot of sense to me. I think the cap space for the Saints is pretty tough, so they would have to figure out a lot of things to push for Clowney.
The one thing is he has said that he wants to play for a contender. That was part of not being traded to the Dolphins and being dealt to the Seahawks because he had them as contenders. So the Saints would make a little bit more sense in those regards, but the coaching connection with Vrabel and just being familiar with that division, playing with the Texans for so many years, I hope it's the Titans, even though it's back in our division, because the Saints would be ridiculous with Clowney on their defense.
Well, keeping on the defensive side, PFF released their top 32 defenses, and the Titans came in ranked 23 based on losing Casey and Cameron Wake. A guy like Clowney, you can just assume would put you maybe, a few steps up from 23, maybe into the top 20? A guy like that alone?
Mid-teens at least. That's a good pass rush to add to replace Cameron Wake.
So I don't know if you guys got to see the top 32. Is there a team defensively that stood out to you that said, hey, man, these guys need to be ranked higher, or even shouldn't be in the top 10, should be way down?
For me, and I'm surprised there wasn't more of an adjustment, or there even was an adjustment, is I'm surprised the Patriots are still ranked in the top 5. They're at number 4, despite all of their COVID opt-outs and people that they've lost in free agency and other things. Like they don't have Kyle Van Noy anymore. Jamie Collins is no longer there. Donta Hightower opted out. Patrick Chung opted out, but they're still there at number 4. And it's, I guess, predicated primarily on their secondary, which, like we said earlier, is still pretty stacked even without Chung. So, yeah, I thought I would see them a little bit lower. I mean, they're still ahead of the Bills. I think the Bills have a better defense than the Patriots at this point. So,
yeah, Roland, it's mind-blowing when you say all those names, because those names are like synonymous with that Patriots defense, and to think that they're not going to be playing now, how can they be top 4? I don't think they're top 4. What about you, Ben?
I'm still breezing through. I'm trying to find where the Texans are. They're at 25. Shit, bro! I had to go a long way on this article. Doesn't surprise me though. But like the one thing that I was noticing, the top 5, aside from the 49ers, it's a bunch of cold weather teams, man. Seems like these teams who play mostly over on the East Coast or just in cold weathers stack up these defenses. I think by the end of the year, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense will be number 1.
That's a good call. They were top 3 or top 5 last year.
Yeah, they're number 3 even on this ranking. But I think that at the end of the year, they'll be considered the top defense in the NFL.
Rob, your Cardinals came in at 27. I know last year they had that issue with Peterson being out.
Hey, Rob, you shouldn't have been laughing that hard at my Texans, man.
Hey, man, listen, the Cardinals defense is was terrible last year, historically bad. It was awful. Isaiah Simmons is going to change the game, I think, a lot for them. So that's pretty exciting. We'll see what happens. But in my opinion, the most underrated team on that list is the Minnesota Vikings. At 16, they're well, that too. But I mean, the Vikings being 16, they're easily a top 10 defense. They just traded for Ngakoue. They got Hunter.
Yeah.
They have two of the best safeties in the NFL, Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith. I know they drafted some cornerbacks. Who was it? Jeff Gladney.
Yep.
And somebody else. So yeah, exactly. So if their cornerbacks play well, they're easily a top 10 defense in the NFL. Easily.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I like that call.
Roland, what other issues are we seeing going into the NFL season besides this, COVID-19?
Issues. I don't know about issues, but there are there are some controversies out there. One for me that I want to see play out, and I think we were talking a little bit about this team earlier, was the Saints and Alvin Kamara in that current contract negotiation that they find themselves in. I thought it was really interesting, the phrases that were thrown out, and it always makes you wonder where this information is coming from, or what the reasoning or the angling behind it is. But the one common phrase that I was hearing was later refuted, was that Alvin Kamara was looking for Christian McCaffrey money. He wanted to become the highest paid running back, which is in excess, I think, of $15 million. I think CMC's right at 16 a year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but Alvin Kamara and his team later on came out and refuted and said that he's not looking for CMC money, but he does want to be compensated well for his services. And so I thought that was really interesting, and it's just one of those things with running backs. Like it becomes like scratching nails on a chalkboard to pay these guys for some of these owners and franchises, and what some of these guys have to do to end up getting paid. So we'll see if Alvin Kamara becomes one of those situations like a Le'Veon Bell holding out, but I don't think it's going to come to that. I think he already reported to camp, but he wants his money. So that'll be interesting.
For Ben, I'm thinking it's going to be the Deshaun without DeAndre, right? That would be your situation.
Yeah, I was going to try and pick something else, but honestly, I want to see what we look like. We haven't seen any preseason games. Usually before the season, we'd at least have an idea. But for us, it's a complete overhaul. I'd say brand new running back, brand new wide receivers. The offensive line is the same in the quarterback, but without Hopkins, really don't know what the offense is going to look like as far as spreading out the ball. Who's the number one? Who's his favorite target? So that's what I'm looking forward to, man. 8 days, or 7 days now.
That was a third of the offense going away.
Yeah.
And for the Cowboys, it's the same thing. Dak in his year, we've already beat it, so we're not going to talk about it. Rob, do you see any other controversies here? Maybe Derek Carr, Mariota.
I don't know.
He's in the Saints locker room. That was kind of a hot take for a little bit. Now, Patricia, is this his hot seat season? There's a few that could be up there.
Yeah, the Saints. If Drew Brees starts playing poorly at any time this season, I think losing Teddy Bridgewater is going to hurt the Saints more than they think, because he balled out for them last year. What, he won 6 games in a row or something?
Yeah, you don't trust famous Jameis?
I don't know, man. Maybe so. Maybe they'll eat some W's.
This one intrigued me also, just because I've been saying that Breeze really doesn't have the arm anymore. But like he said, losing Bridgewater and them, like we talked about them being in win now mode, you can't see them, shelving Breeze at any point in the season. Let's say a 3-game losing streak.
Century.
They can't. It would have to be an injury, right? Like you say.
Yeah.
So, but with the whole controversy on the flag, also, I don't know that. I think it's an uphill battle for the Saints, but they definitely have the roster to make it work. I'll say that.
So I know we're not talking about them, but just today, just on the spot, Saints or Bucks in that division.
I did the Bucks.
I'm going with the Bucks now.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I had them in the NFC title game, so I'm gonna go with the Bucks.
I'm gonna go with the Saints. They have way more continuity after having the same team for 3 years now, pretty much. The Bucks are completely brand new. I love Bruce Arians, and Todd Bowles is a hell of a defensive coach, but we'll see. We'll see what old Tom Brady does this year.
Man, they're stacked on paper. We'll see what they look like in the regular season.
All right, well, that leads us to the Arizona Cardinals team preview. Well, you want to take us through that 2019 record?
Yeah, sure. So 2019 was up and down year for them, mostly down, but 5-10-1. They tied the first game. It's crazy. They had 8 games that were decided by a touchdown or fewer, so they have some close games in there. Could have gone either way for them. Their 2020 regular season win total is set at 7.5 wins. It's currently juiced a little bit to the over. Couple of interesting props that I brought onto the board. We can talk about them a little later. Kyler Murray, regular season passing touchdowns over under 25. That, I don't know. That one sounds like an over to me. I don't know, just on first glance. Over under 3,900 or 3,950 yards. And he's also has top 10 shortest odds to win the MVP at plus 1,400. So he's going to have a monster year for that. But he is the reigning offensive rookie of the year. So see if he takes that next step and wins the MVP. As far as what they added in the 2020 draft, Kyler Murray, obviously rookie last year, but they added Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, cornerback, safety, probably played a little bit off of the edge, linebacker out of Clemson with the 8th pick. I like that. They got Josh Jones to help out the offensive line in the 3rd round, defensive tackle, Lakey Fotu in the 4th round, Rashard Lawrence in the 4th, defensive tackle, and then they rounded out the 6th and the 7th with Evan Weaver and Eno Benjamin. Any guys you're excited for there, Robert, our Cardinals expert?
Yeah, so Rashard Lawrence is having a hell of a camp. People are super impressed with him. That 4th round draft pick out of LSU. You know, those LSU kids they're built different, man. They're crazy. So he's looking to be a monster already. So that's someone to keep an eye on. And then Eno Benjamin's a fun story because he's a 7th round pick out of Arizona State. And he was super dynamic for Arizona State. And the Cardinals were super happy to have him. He's a hometown kid. And the Cardinals have been liking to draft hometown kids the past couple of years with Byron. Byron Murphy was a hometown kid. Christian Kirk, also a hometown kid. So working out so far. So he's someone to keep an eye on. He had a 75-yard rushing touchdown in the scrimmage last week. So
while we're on the draft picks, and we talked about him a little bit earlier as being a big boost to your defense and Isaiah Simmons, where do you think he's going to get the most play time at? Are they going to be playing linebacker?
Right now, I think we need a linebacker, but, you know, in practice, like I think yesterday he ran drills with the cornerbacks. They're putting him everywhere they want him to put him. So he's going to be super interesting to watch this year and how Vance Joseph does it, because honestly, if Vance Joseph fumbles the usage of Isaiah Simmons, he probably loses his job next year. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm super excited.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see if this, because I thought the best fit would be safety with the run help for Simmons, but I mean, the guy has the speed to play corner by all means.
I mean, the speed to play corner, he's 6'4", runs a 4.3 40. The dude's a freaking nature. Yeah. So you can literally just line him up anywhere. As long as he's on the football field, I think he's going to help.
There you go.
Yeah, and that's a great pick at 8. I know there was talks of him going in the top 3, so good on you guys for capitalizing on that. Just to move on from the draft and to go into some offseason additions, because the Cardinals were one of those teams that were in the news a lot this past, even towards the end of last season with Kenyon Drake, who they ended up re-signing, and that ended up being the end of David Johnson right there, as he left and is now with Ben's Texans. Then the other guy, speaking of the Texans, but this way the opposite way, is DeAndre Hopkins. He came over here via trade. And then the other big offseason news for the Cardinals was the re-signing of Budda Baker and making him the highest safety in the league. So out of all those guys, which one do you guys expect to make the biggest impact on the team this year? As far as Kenyon Drake, DeAndre Hopkins,
it's got to be Hopkins.
Baker.
That's a softball, man. DeAndre Hopkins is just insane. I mean, he's a top 2 wide receiver in the NFL.
So you think he's going to give you guys production right off the bat? There's not going to be any
absolutely
connection issues with Kyler Murray.
I don't think so.
Has been in the past with receivers coming into new offenses with quarterback for the first time.
I don't think so, and I think the extra long camps that we had this offseason helps with that, because instead of the offseason focusing more on seeing these younger undrafted free agents and having a huge roster and narrowing it down, this preseason, I should say, felt more like getting a system in place. So DeAndre Hopkins got a ton of reps this preseason with Kyler Murray. So I think we should see it happen quick, and I think that Cliff Kingsbury is going to make him the number one right off the bat and just get so many schemes in place for him. So, I mean, for example, Larry Fitzgerald just turned 37 2 days ago, and I think he caught like 40 screen passes last year. That's way too many screen passes for a 37-year-old possession receiver. So that alone will just free up a lot of different schemes, having DeAndre Hopkins, who's younger. He's 25, 26. Be out there, and
he's got to be at least like 28 or 29, DeAndre.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's getting close to 30.
28, yeah.
But Ben,
he's 28, yeah.
Are you mentally prepared and emotionally prepared to see DeAndre Hopkins scoring touchdowns for the Cardinals this year?
Yeah, I'm rooting for it, man.
Okay.
I'm playing with I've played a couple games with the Cardinals in Madden.
I like that.
But the one that I do think that it's going to take a little bit of time, especially with that opening game. I think they open up against the Niners. We're going to get into that.
Yep.
So we're going to find out quick. But I'm most excited for
Kenyon Drake.
Kenyon Drake. Yeah, I'm most excited for Kenyon Drake. I have high hopes for him.
I've been predicting 1,000 yards for him, right?
Yeah, I've been telling these guys that he can be that he will be, not that he can be, that he will be a top 10 running back by the end of the season. And it leads me into David Johnson as well. I mean, you have your ear to Arizona news. What was the process of that, acquiring Kenyon Drake and kind of him taking David Johnson's job and them signing him, extending it?
Yeah, the course of the season was really tough watching David Johnson because he just didn't seem right. He would. I wish I had the clip on me right now. I could show you guys.
People said that he kind of gave up, like he just wasn't.
I couldn't tell. It looked like he was scared of contact almost. I would say.
Are you talking about that clip where he got lit up in the backfield when he was like?
No,
jogging?
It's a clip where it's like a 24.
Right?
It's like a stretch play, exactly. It's the left, and he runs with both hands on the ball, and he just looks extremely sluggish and kind of cowers away from contact. And if you watch David Johnson's highlights from his first 2 seasons in the NFL, he looks like a freak of nature. So I don't know what happened last year, and I understand the injuries were problematic for him, and he just doesn't seem like he ever got his head right. So I think a change of scenery was the best thing for him, and I think we were extremely excited. The Cardinals were extremely excited to get him off the books and kind of get a cheaper running back in Kenyon Drake, especially after he played so well this past couple games, 6 games of the season for them. It was a no-brainer.
He was a top 3 running back the second half of the season. When
yep.
He was
and he would have been even better if he didn't get injured for a little bit. So
was there anything to Cliff Kingsbury, being the new coach and David Johnson being there prior to Cliff Kingsbury, and Kenyon Drake being more of like Cliff Kingsbury's guy at that position?
I think that helps too. I think Cliff Kingsbury definitely runs a completely different offense than David Johnson's used to. Right. And he is extremely great at pass catching. We've seen that in the past when he was on Bruce Arians' offense. But
even this year a little bit we saw it.
Exactly. So I think something David Johnson's going to do extremely well for the Texans, I think, this year. Okay. But I think if he was on the Cardinals still, I wouldn't say the same thing. I wouldn't have the same optimism. So I think the change of scenery was super good for him.
I think that
I'm excited for him.
Scheme pretty well also. So
yep. For sure. Hopefully, as long as his mindset's great and he's fixed whatever was going on in his head, because he did not look right last year. So it was a good thing to get him out.
There, man. I really think that he just mentally checked out. Like he knew you all weren't getting Kenyon Drake just for nothing.
And the coach, the
top
10
running back prior to that back injury.
Yeah, there's no way he should look that slow.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, I think he lost some confidence, and I also think the coaches didn't show confidence in him. So I think those two things just led to him not feeling very good about the situation. So
let's just have a little fun here before we get into the regular season schedule. DeAndre Hopkins, Robert, you're extremely high on him this year. Over under 93.5 catches.
That's tough. I think he gets over, but I think it's going to be pretty close because there's a lot of wide receivers that feed in the Cardinals offense right now.
I like exactly a lot. Yeah.
So I think we can take a second and talk about the Cardinals wide receivers because it is a loaded room, and it's going to be tough seeing as rosters get cut Saturday for the 53-man roster to see if Hakeem Butler, the Iowa State standout, if he even makes the team, which is extremely tough. Yeah, 6'5", freak athlete coming out of the draft. We were so excited. He fell to the 5th round. People thought he was going to be a second-round pick, maybe even third, but he fell to the 5th, and now he's having a really hard time in the NFL. Last year he broke his hand and was out for the entire season, and that just put him really far behind, and now he's battling really tough for a roster spot because DeAndre Hopkins came in, because Larry Fitzgerald's here, because Christian Kirk is so established already. And then you have Keyshawn Johnson, who we also drafted that same draft with Hakeem Butler. Then you have Andy Isabella, who we also drafted that same draft pick with him. So Andy Isabella pretty much secured his spot. The guys else I listed, so it's pretty much between Keyshawn Johnson, Hakeem Butler, and then Trent Sherfield, who's had shown flashes here and there throughout the regular season last year. So seeing Hakeem Butler drop off the team is going to be a little sad to see, and I think someone's going to snatch him up quickly. So
absolutely, right away.
So that'll be interesting to see where he goes because I was super excited about that pick.
Any possibility of 2 1,000-yard receivers this year for y'all?
I think so. I think with the way the offense is built, I think it's pretty easy to see if Hopkins is one, and then either Fitzgerald or Kirk can easily be the second.
Yeah.
Is Fitzgerald going to be seeing a lot of playing time, or is it going to be Kirk, Hopkins, and maybe Isabella in the slot?
So I think the 4 wide receiver set will be super fun to watch because I think Kirk plays the best when he's in the slot, and that's what he played at A&M, and that's what he's most comfortable in. So if we can get him in the slot and then get Fitzgerald and Hopkins on the outside, and then you can throw Isabella there as a burner on the 4th, that'll be a lot of fun to watch.
That would make a lot of sense. And then with Kenyon Drake as well, that's a lot of weapons. Not much speed on the outsides, but a lot of speed on the inside.
Speed on the inside. I mean, you got Kyler Murray running a 4.2 40 back there when you need some real speed. So
I don't know about 4.2.
I mean, he beat Andy Isabella in a race. Would Andy Isabella run a 4.28 or something like that?
Yeah, I think something like that. But Kyler Murray's got next level speed for sure. It's just he looks so funny running because he's like 5 foot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's just insanely fast. And the thing is that he looks even faster with pads on. It's insane how fast he is. So I mean,
the Arizona offense is going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be up to Kyler Murray, though, to make sure that offense is going on.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when we want to talk about the Cardinals offense, and we're going to live and die by the offensive line because the Cardinals were sacked the most in the NFL last year, 48 times. And that sounds like we should put all the blame on the offensive line, but Kyler Murray also plays part of the blame of that too because he looked like he was lost a couple times last year. And I think he was accounted for 24 of those sacks or something like that. So that was just him being a rookie. So hopefully he can show improvement of that this year.
Would he throw the ball away, or was it just holding on to the ball too long?
It was holding on to the ball too long and just trying to do too much with it. The problem was last year he wasn't throwing the ball away at all. He was trying to keep the ball in his hand and do whatever he could with it and try to make a play. And I think he just has to adjust to the speed of the NFL and realize he's no longer the fastest player on the field every time he steps on it like he was in college. So
and I think
it just takes some adjusting.
They're just so used to that because that's my same complaint with Watson. Everybody shits on our offensive line, and it's really not that bad. But, I mean, these guys hold the ball so damn long, bro.
Right.
They try and make a last move, and you're just not going to get out because it's an NFL guy.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when you have those quarterbacks like that, it's going to be a combination of offensive line and the quarterback holding onto the ball, trying to make something happen. So, yeah, that'll be super interesting. I mean, our offensive line got a lot better. DJ Humphries got signed to a big 3-year extension, so that's super exciting. And then we have Josh Jacobs, who we stole out of the 3rd round from Houston. Everybody thought he was a first-round pick. So
Josh Jones. Yeah.
Josh Jones, sorry.
Yeah. No,
Josh
yeah, I'm
Jones
looking at
out of Houston. He's insane. So he can easily come in and play. The guards are still there, but everything looks good to go. It's just we'll see how things go. I think the biggest thing I'm worried about coming into this year is that we don't get browned. Like last year with the Browns.
I was going to say, it sounds like you like that over 7.5 that we were talking about in the beginning of this breakdown episode. But look at y'all's schedule, though. Look at y'all's schedule.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So,
what pops out with your schedule that catches your eye? I mean, the thing that catches my eye, I'll tell you right off the bat, is that Week 1 game against San Francisco.
So that's funny you say that. So the Week 1. So with the 7.5, I'm a little scared of it because I think, like I said, the national attention, everybody's extremely hyped with how fun the Cardinals offense is going to be, but the defensive questions are warranted. So I don't know how well the defense is going to play. And if you sit down and look at it, the NFC West is by far the best division in the NFL right now. It's hard to say otherwise. I mean, they are just insanely stacked with the improvements the Cardinals made. I mean, 5 out of the last 8 Super Bowls have included the NFC West. 5 out of the last 8. Obviously, the Seahawks and the Niners dominating that, but still, it's just insane how good this NFC West is. The Rams just came off the Super Bowl. It's crazy.
It's a tough division.
So, yeah, I mean, Week 1 will be a good test and identifier of how far along the Cardinals are. If the Cardinals come out and show like they're pretty polished against the Niners Week 1, that's a pretty good indication that the over might hit. But I think the biggest game I have circled on if this over hits is 100% the Monday night game against the Cowboys.
October 19th.
You guys are going to win that one, though, so I don't know why you'd be circling
that. So that is the biggest game of the entire season for me as a Cardinals fan. I'm sure for a lot of Cardinals fans. I'm sad I'm not going to be able to. I would like to go. I know Jerry Jones is going to have seats.
Yeah,
I was
crazy.
When it was announced in May, I was ready to go. I had my bags packed. I was extremely ready to go. So now we'll see what happens with everything going on right now. But that game will determine.
Why is that game the one for you?
Well, I think it's a coin flip, right? So I think if the Cardinals win that game, then that means they can compete with quote unquote good teams, right?
Okay.
So coming up to that game,
on the schedule. Let's go.
Yeah. So coming up to that game, we have the Niners Week 1, and like Roland said, I think that's super important. That if the Cardinals can win that game, they have a good little stretch of teams that are pretty easy to beat.
I have you guys at 4-1. I have you guys at 4-1 going into the Cowboys games.
Yeah, so the Washington football team, they have a ton of question marks. Detroit Lions, same with them. The Lions played the Cardinals in a crazy game last year in that overtime game Week 1.
Time.
Yeah, exactly.
The first week of the season, that's crazy.
So that game will be pretty good. I think some people are writing off the Lions a little too much because Matthew Stafford's still a really good quarterback. So
he is.
Anything can happen with that.
And that's early in the season, so he won't be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
No D-Slay.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, he'll be healthy. Yeah, no Slay. Their defense has a lot of question marks. They picked up the Ohio State kid, right? Okuda.
Oh yeah, they drafted him number 3.
Yeah. So that's a good acquisition for them. So then they have Carolina coming up with Bridgewater, Christian McCaffrey. The Cardinals played Carolina last year, and Christian McCaffrey ate them alive. I mean, ate their entire lunch. It was insane how much Christian McCaffrey played part in that game. So I think Detroit and Carolina could be sneaky losses, possibly, but I don't see that being the case. It really depends on how they're looking health-wise and everything. Mm-hmm. So we're at 3-1 right now, assuming San Francisco is a loss, and then New York, which is another game I think the Cardinals can easily win.
Yeah,
so the tough thing about the New York Carolina games is they're both back-to-back East Coast games.
Are they doing the travel back?
Right. So they were. I think I read today the Cardinals were thinking about traveling on game day. So I'm not too sure how that's going to impact things or where that's going to leave things. It's really hard to say right now with these East Coast games and from a West Coast team traveling all the way across to the East Coast and how that's going to look with how things are right now in the world. So
I was reading, and you brought up a good point. I was reading that usually the teams will stay over there on the East Coast for those 2 weeks, or they'll stay in a similar place. But I'm reading now, though, that it's part of protocol that they want the teams to actually go back home.
Right. So I think that's going to be difficult on teams. So
yeah,
that's just a wild card of the season, I guess. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 2 back-to-back East Coast games for the Cardinals. It's going to be tough for them. And then they play in Dallas that next week. So they have a little bit longer week to play in Dallas. So like I said, that kind of leads up to everything going to Dallas on a prove-it nationally televised game. Can the Cardinals show up and show the world that they're here and they're actually ready to compete?
Overs that game. I'll tell you that. That's
exactly. Yeah.
That's going to be.
Yeah. That's going to be a fun. Hopefully, it's a really fun game because I think for the Cardinals, they need more national attention. They need more nationally televised games because that is the only nationally televised game besides the Thursday night football game that pretty much everybody gets for free. Mm-hmm. So the Cardinals need to play a really good game that week against Dallas, and that will matter a lot for the rest of the season because the NFC West is so hard to beat. So
you guys got to at least win 1 or 2 games in the division to make it happen. You guys got swept by the division last year. You got to think you're good enough this year to maybe split with Seattle, and you got to think you can split with the Rams this year. You have to split with the Rams, if not beat them twice, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. And I think beating the Niners once is completely doable as well with how well the Cardinals played the Niners last year.
They're pretty banged up right now.
They are. They lost Fred Warner to COVID. That's crazy.
Yeah, they lost Fred Warner, so he won't be available week 1. I think Dante Pettis is their currently starting wide receiver because of how many wide receivers are.
Jalen Hurd got hurt.
Are hurt for them, so I think
Samuel as well.
I think what's scary about the Niners is Kyle Shanahan and their run game is just so efficient. So if there can be a formula to shut that down this season by any team, I think I can see the Niners kind of struggling and having a little Super Bowl hangover. So we'll see how that goes. It really just depends on shutting down that running game.
Let's stay on track though. So you have them at 4-1, possibly going up against Dallas. You have a point up there though, right? So
4-1 against Dallas.
Let's give them a loss against Dallas. Let's see.
All right. So let's just pretend they actually lose to the Cowboys. So it's 4-2. And then we have – so then you have another big game against the Seattle Seahawks, which I want to go ahead and give them a win for that one. So I want to say that's 5-2 there.
Okay.
So 5-2 going into the bye would look pretty good, and then things get pretty tough at the latter end of the year here after the bye week. They have Miami. Who knows who's going to be the quarterback for Miami by week 9 of this season? So
Tua.
Should still win.
It should be Tua. Yeah, it should be Tua. So that should still be a win for the Cardinals if they're playing as well as we have them predicted to right now. So have them a win there. Buffalo's tough for me because I think Buffalo's a little overhyped right now by the media. I think Buffalo's a little. I think the Josh Allen
in a good situation.
Hype. Yep. I think Josh Allen.
He's a beast.
I mean, he's a beast of a man. He's got a cannon of an arm, but watching that Buffalo playoff game was pretty hard to watch last year.
Yeah, that was terrible.
I loved it.
But hey, they still found a way to beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving last year, didn't they?
That was stupid. Never mind.
I don't know. So they're a weird up and down team. Yeah, so I'll give the Cardinals a loss to Buffalo, assuming Buffalo's playing good football that week, because Tremaine Edmonds is a freak of nature and he reminds me of Isaiah Simmons.
And they got your Davius White to not opt out. Yep. That was a big one
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So their defense is scary enough as it is. So that's a loss there. And then a short week and a Thursday night game against Seattle. I think that's another loss because it's playing in Seattle on a short week. I think that's super tough for the Cardinals. So I take that loss. And then another fun game is going to the East Coast after that to play the Patriots. So I still think the Patriots beat the Cardinals just because Bill Belichick is going to find a way to scheme around Kyler Murray in that offense. And then if Cam Newton's playing well, who knows? So I'll put that as a loss as well. And then a big game for the Cardinals is probably the first game against Los Angeles here on December 6th. So I really want them to win this game. I think the Rams have beaten the Cardinals 3 seasons straight now. So 6 times in a row or something like that. So it's pretty tough to watch, but
you gotta get one, man.
I think they're due one. So I would say they beat the Rams at home on December 6th. And then they play at New York the next week, which I think is another win.
Same here. Same here, pal. I'm right there with you.
And then the last 3 games of the season are really tough. So we have Philadelphia, San Francisco, Los Angeles. Assuming Philadelphia is playing, good football and they have Wentz and everybody, that's a loss. San Francisco towards the end of the season, as long as they're playing for something, that's a loss. And then at Los Angeles is a coin flip. So I'm not too sure where we're at now, but I want to say that could be a win.
I think you had them at around 8.
Yeah. 8-8 is what I expect. 9-7 would be great. I think what's interesting about the Cardinals this season is that there is that third wild card team this year for the playoffs. So that would be amazing if the Cardinals can. I don't think 8-8 gets them in, but 9-7 might sneak in.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that. Man. But I think this will be a really good year for the Cardinals to announce themselves that they're here to compete with this team and with Cliff Kingsbury and with Kyler Murray. Because if not, and if this season goes really poorly and Kyler Murray doesn't play as well as we think he's going to, then we're looking at same old Cardinals here, and we're going to be having a tough time.
And that's really what it comes down to for me when I'm looking at this schedule for you guys. I'm looking at this through the lens that Kyler Murray is better than what he was last year. I think he's not going to digress. I'm thinking that he's taken the next step, whatever that means for his maturation and where he's truly going to be as a quarterback. But just all that even said, again, I think it truly does hinge on Kyler Murray. But just looking at the schedule, I agree with you for the most part in the first half of the season. I have you guys right at 5-2 going into that bye week. And then 6-2 after the Miami game. I have you beating Los Angeles and then New York. So I have you right at 8 wins in the middle of December. But as you said, those last 3 games, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Los Angeles are really tough. And that's kind of what gives me pause on the total. But, I mean, if you think about it, even if they're not at the total, they're at 7, let's say, going into that 3-game stretch. They have 3 games to get to 8. So, I mean, I like those odds there. So
Agreed.
This might actually be an over that I look to take as we get closer to the season. I like that over 7.5.
Yeah, for sure. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the Cardinals' defense and if they can improve from just how bad they were last year. Patrick Peterson is looking for a contract extension, so this is a big year for him after being kind of burned last year. Exactly. The standout game to me was when I watched him get burned by Emmanuel Sanders. That was tough to watch. Yeah. So him, Byron Murphy's going to have year 2 here. He has a big prove it mentality, and Robert Alford, who we signed from Atlanta 2 years ago, out for the season 2 years in a row. So that's super tough because he was supposed to be the starting corner next to Patrick Peterson. So that's the name of the game. So
what does Budda Baker need to do to validate that contract?
That's a great question. I forgot we haven't touched on that yet. So I think the title of highest paid safety in the NFL is going to go away very quickly with how many safeties need to get paid. So exactly. So it's kind of just a title right now. I think the Cardinals are super smart to pay him now before the safety market starts blowing up like crazy with all these safeties that need to get paid. So I think in a year or two he'll be maybe in the middle, maybe a top 10 paid safety still, but it won't be as high of a cap hit as it looks like right now. So
the next big guy up is the highest paid guy. So it was just
exactly. And that's just kind of how the NFL works right now. Every time a new contract hits, it feels like that person's the highest paid at their position ever. So that's just the name of the game and how things go. So it's a fun title.
I think Mahomes ruined that for the next
quarterbacks.
Decade.
Yeah, for sure. So until Lamar Jackson's ready to get paid, we'll see how that goes. But
so
that's super interesting for sure.
Where are you at with the season total, Ben?
I think that it's very doable. I think that the only for sure losses would be splitting the division. They're at least going to lose 1 game to each of their 3 division rivals. I would have for sure losses. And a lot of the other games are very winnable, though, man. Like Philadelphia at the end of the year, I mean, Wentz might be throwing to his left tackle by that point in the
Dude,
season.
their offensive line's beat up right now too.
Not only
Very,
that,
very-
but everybody's beat up, bro. Everybody's always beat up in Philadelphia. I don't know what the hell it is over there, but everybody's beat up. A lot of these games, these toss-up games, Buffalo, Dallas, the Carolina, these are all very winnable games. Even New England, like they're winnable games. We just like Robert said, we're gonna have to find out how Arizona looks. And the good thing is we're gonna get a test right away. We're gonna find out pretty quick because there's no better test than the San Francisco 49ers, who were in the Super Bowl last year. So after that, it should ease up with Washington and Detroit, and then they'll figure themselves out before the bye week. So I'm hyped. I think that jump that the Rams had, I'm not saying they're going to go on the run that the Rams did in going all the way to the Super Bowl, but how exciting their offense was, those are the hopes that I have for this Arizona offense. I'm looking forward to it. I'm big on Kenyon Drake this year. So I'm looking
I think over under 7.5.
Yeah, I'll go over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barely,
I like the over here.
barely, but over.
I think it could be there's a very thin line between 8-8 and 10-6 in the NFL, so it could be
Parity.
it could go either way. Yeah, it could be either way. So who knows what's going to happen? That's what's beautiful about the NFL. So we'll see. But
What do you think, Just? Over under?
I'm with the overs on this one. I think with that kind of offense, the players they got in place, Isaiah Simmons being added, Cliff Kingsbury's got his guys. They're going to get over.
No sophomore slump. Then nobody sees a sophomore slump for Kyler.
Nah, he's a baller.
And the other one, I like the over 25.5 touchdown passes for
That
Kyler
too.
Murray.
I don't know
pretty
about
sweet.
the yardage though.
That's pretty sweet. I like the 25.5.
What was there? I don't know if you know off the top, but obviously with the Kingsbury coming from Texas Tech, he's more pass happy. What was like the percentage of their pass to run ratio?
it started off really at the beginning of the year was super air raid heavy, and we were passing a lot. And then towards the end of the year, we started running Kenyon Drake like crazy because it was just being so efficient and working so well. So exactly. So the way the Cardinals offense is being set up is that they're spreading the field and just opening up those holes for a speedy running back like Kenyon Drake to hit. So it started to become a little bit more equal. I think that we were still throwing the ball 30 times a game or so, but we were easily running the ball 17 to 20. So okay. I think Kyler will still throw for more than 3,900?
3,950.
Yeah, I think he can hit 4,000 yards this year, especially with how the NFL's going. So
and I see 4,000 too. I like it. I like the over 25.5.
I like the over 25.5, but the 3,950 might be a little steep for me. I don't know if he gets there. Because they are going to be running with Kenyon.
I just personally, I don't like betting the under. I like to root for points and seeing stuff happen. So
it is some passing league. So
I was surprised though by how highly ranked he was in the MVP rankings. Plus 1,400 puts him like top 7-ish. So I thought that was crazy, but I can see
I think
the numbers that he can put up.
That went up recently because it used to be not that high at all. So the hype recently has really bumped those numbers up. When I looked before the summer started, he was pretty low on that list. So that's pretty interesting.
People are taking some shots on him.
With a 7.5 win total, that's pretty odd too, because usually
exactly
with better records,
It's true.
Yeah, I think the Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson effect is a good reason for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I promise you guys, Ben didn't threaten me and Justin to go in on the Cardinals because we know Ben's like the what's it called? Kenyon Drake and Kyler Murray for a while. He's included them in his top lists. So Ben's been onto something for the podcast as far as the Cardinals love here, but we're gonna keep it in the division. We brought Robert over here to talk not only with the Cardinals or about the Cardinals, but about a team that has made life pretty tough for them in the past couple of years, in the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody knows they had a great year last year, 13-3, got to the Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs in a great game. They pretty much owned the division last year, went 5-1. I think they split the game with Seattle. They had a couple of games decided by a touchdown or less, 6 games, but that's kind of the NFL, a lot of close games there. The regular season total is set at 10.5 and is juiced to the under slightly right now. This is per my bookie. Some key draft picks that they had, they were part of some trades draft day with the Colts, I believe. So they ended up with the Colts first round pick. They traded away I'm blanking out his name. DeForest Buckner.
DeForest Buckner. Yep.
Yeah, they traded away DeForest Buckner and essentially replaced him with their first-round draft pick. And one of my favorite players this year, absolute stud out of South Carolina, Javon Kinlaw. Drafted him with the 15th pick, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. It's one of those big boys that wear single digits. I like to see it. I like seeing the defensive tackles wearing number 7, wearing number 3. It's one of my favorite things about college football. But anyways, I digress. Moving on, they drafted another guy who's going to make an instant impact for their team, just considering the injuries that we touched on with the receiving core. Brandon Ayuk, receiver out of Arizona State, do-it-all guy, pretty exciting guy to watch play last year. Added onto the offense in the 6th and 7th round with Charlie Warner, tight end out of Georgia, and wide receiver Jaquan Jennings, who actually has seen him play at Tennessee. He's a pretty good guy in the 7th round. So they love the SEC. They bolstered up that receiving core, and they replaced DeForest Buckner with Javon Kinlaw. A couple of other, news for them as far as departures are concerned. They lost Emmanuel Sanders, who they brought over kind of like as a rental. He was only there last year, right? I feel like he was not there very long with the 49ers, but he made an impact on them nonetheless. He moves on to the Saints. That was a big loss for them. They re-signed Eric Armstead to a 5-year deal, trying to look for some other big names on here. They also re-signed their starting safety, Jimmy Ward. They brought over Travis Benjamin, a receiver, Tom Compton, offensive lineman, and a couple of other names. And as we mentioned, they lost Fred Warner to COVID-19. Hopefully he recovers and is able to play this year, but he's out for the foreseeable future. So that's the 49ers. That's what they've been up to in the off season. As you know, this is the second full season that we'll have Jimmy G as a starter. That was one of the bigger questions throughout the season. And even now, I still think that's a big question for the 49ers is Jimmy Garoppolo their guy? Is he the guy that helps get them to the promised line again and gets them over the hump this year? Or is it more of the same? They're just so well put together all around that it doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. But I just leave it to you guys with that. How do you think the 49ers look coming into the 2020 season? And what are your thoughts on Jimmy G?
Let's defer to Robert, the NFC West expert.
I hear a chuckle.
Yeah, the Jimmy G one got me pretty good. I don't know. I think the Niners. I don't think the Niners are a 13-3 team again this season, but I do think they're well off to be very competitive. Just because I think Kyle Shanahan has an insane pedigree of offensive coaching. It's actually nuts when you look at it and how he did so well in Atlanta and how hard the sharp fall off was when he left Atlanta. How well he did in Minnesota. How well he did in Washington when he had Kirk Cousins. And then I think he coached like Brian Hoyer and the Browns and made him look good. And then he went to the Niners and made who was Nick Mullins look good for like half a season 2 years ago. So he's an insane coach offensively. So
Bethard. What was that other quarterback's name? Bethard.
Oh yeah, CJ Beathard from Iowa. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So all those guys he made look like serviceable quarterbacks, and now he's doing the same thing with Jimmy G. Because
sounds like Bill O'Brien, man, making chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know about Jimmy G as a whole. I don't think he's very good. I think there's a lot of NFL quarterbacks who could have made the throw at the end of the Super Bowl to Emmanuel Sanders there.
Missed them.
A whole lot of quarterbacks in the NFL could make that throw, and he didn't.
I could have made that throw. No, I'm kidding.
I think that he's coached so well and him not making those mistakes like that they'll still be really competitive. But like I said earlier, I think it really comes down to how teams can play against that run game that they have. That's just super dynamic because they still have Raheem Mostert, and I think Tevin Coleman's finally healthy.
And Jerick McKinnon.
And then Jerick McKinnon's finally healthy, who he loves. Mm-hmm. So it'll be a scary backfield once again. So if they run the ball really well like they did last year, it's how do you stop a team that's running the ball so efficiently with a defense like that they have in place with, Bosa. Exactly. Bosa, Werner, their defensive line is just stacked. Javon Kinlaw, if he starts playing well right at his rookie season, then their defensive line starts right where it left off last year, and that's pretty scary. So I think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be as good as last season. It's so hard to repeat success in the NFL. Super Bowl hangovers are Super Bowl hangovers for a reason. I think it's happened like every season, pretty much.
That's a good point.
So I don't see them competing at the same way, and I think they'll lose a couple coin flip games that they didn't lose last year this year. So
I think the trouble in the receiving core too is really going to highlight of whether or not Jimmy G is that guy or not. See what he's going to be able to do, because I mean teams are going to have to key in on Kittle, man. I mean Kittle's a monster. Yep. That's a guy we didn't talk about. He got paid. Kittle's the highest paid tight end right now, and rightfully
all
so.
All eyes are going to be on him, and it'll be fun. Knows who they got a tight end stopper now in Simmons, and that's kind of what they told him when they got there. Can you stop George Kittle? So that'll be fun. That'll be fun to watch those matchups and just see other teams start to game plan around Kittle to stop him getting the ball in his hands, because the way their offense works and the way their wide receivers are set up, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Dante Pettis, I think they even have Tavon Austin. All those guys love. Right, they all love running after the catch. So that's how the offense is going to work out. They're not going to be throwing the deep ball much. They're going to be trying to get those open space guys and get them going.
They really don't ask Jimmy G to do that much. I mean,
exactly. Yep. They don't trust him.
My brother said this a lot. They ask him to make 3 to 4 big throws a game, and if he makes those throws, they're going to win. I honestly think that it's a lot of the hype on how much Bill Belichick loved the guy. I think that people are just like, Bill Belichick is locked in on this guy. He even thought about trading Tom Brady away to have Jimmy G be the next guy. And I think that's holding a lot of weight, because he's really not all that, man. Right? We found that out last year in the big game. Now, it was only one game, and he played pretty good throughout and he played decent throughout the season. I mean, he was out with the ACL injury the year prior when they first traded for him, and this was his first season as a 49er. A 13-3 record is pretty damn good, but I agree. I think it's they're only going to digress. I'm not going to say that they're going to digress a lot. I still see them being a double-digit win team, 10 wins minimum. I think that's the floor for them. So yeah, that's where I see them.
What about you, Just?
I think they're about 10-win season this year. They're not going 13-3, that's for sure. Just losing some of their players that like Marquise Goodwin and some of the other receivers.
Justin mentions the Longhorn, of course.
You know me, I'm a homer. Got to do that right away.
That's a good mention, though. I didn't mention they lost 10. He's another guy that opted out to COVID, so he probably wouldn't have played either way this year.
He got traded anyway, I think, or got to go.
That's what I'm saying. Eagles probably wouldn't have been with the Niners, but what were you going to say about?
The Niners have a stretch, like towards the end of October into November, right before their bye week. But October 25th, the Patriots in New England. Then the following week at Seattle, the following week against Green Bay, and then after that at New Orleans.
New Orleans, that's a tough stretch, man.
That's a pretty tough stretch right there, 4 games. And even then, prior to the Patriots game, they have the Rams, which is another, division opponent. They always play each other pretty tough. So, yeah, they have their work cut out for them this year, I think, especially starting the season banged up at the wide receiver position, like Roland mentioned.
I think they're going to end up a double-digit win team, but I'm going to say they're going to be right at like 10 wins, because I do think they're going to find themselves playing from behind this year a little bit more than they did last year, and you're going to need Jimmy G to play more than what they've been asking him to do this past year, and I think it's going to become an issue. Personally, that's where I'm at. I have them right pegged at 9 to 10 wins. I see the reason why Vegas has them right at 10.5, even though they did go 13-3. As Ben mentioned, the Super Bowl hangover is a real thing, and they're banged up right now, and I'm not super high on Jimmy G, and if you're going to need him to come through a little bit more, I don't know that he's going to be able to do that for you. So I would stay away from this total, even though it's set at 10.5, and this is a 13-win team from last year. So that's just me.
Yeah. Well, that's the NFC West that we're going to talk about. Robert, anything else you want to mention in the NFC West to be looking out for this season?
No, man, I think that's it.
Robert, any quick hits on the Seahawks, the only team we didn't touch up on? Do you expect them to be to keep the being the second best team in that division, or do you expect your Cardinals to jump this year?
I don't know, man. It's tough to say. I find Russell Wilson insufferable, so it's hard for me to even watch that guy talk. I cannot stand Russell Wilson.
We had a long time ago.
Okay, but on that point, do you think he says the right thing on purpose?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I think the same thing.
I think the thing is, I think that he does it so much. I think that's who he is as a person, and I hate it. So
that's the thing, though. Yeah, this is who he is.
So I hate it. So I'm not a fan of Russell Wilson. I will die on the sword of him being a little overrated because I like to go back to the game he played against the Packers. What was it, 2014? When he threw like 6 interceptions and still won the game.
Hey, but it was close at the end, Robert. It was close at the end, is what I hear.
So it's all. I mean, he's been. And then I like to see how many games he's won without that crazy defense that he had back in the day. So
the best defense of the decade, man. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, like he's a great quarterback. He got paid really well, but I think he's a little more erratic than people like to pay attention to. So. I don't know. I think, and a lot of that, his O-line is trash. I don't think his O-line got much better this past year. I think they kind of fell into the same trap of them and the Rams just throw first-round picks at players, and then when it doesn't work out, they just lack development and don't have players to throw in there. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. They don't scare me as much as the Niners do, and honestly, even the Rams, just because the Rams have Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and some other good pieces.
Yeah.
So.
The Seahawks defense isn't very scary. I mean, they've got some pretty good safeties now.
The secondary's good.
Yeah, they've got some pretty good safeties, but offensively, I mean, I don't like Russell Wilson either, but he's definitely the only reason that team is competing.
I think Metcalf takes a big step this year. I like Metcalf.
Yeah, personally. And I don't know how Chris Carson turned into Sean Alexander overnight, but people love.
But before you give your plugs, Robert, what's one Cardinals like hot take, like homer take that you have? Like, do you think they make the playoffs? Do you think they get to the Super Bowl? Kyler Murray MVP? What's something that you like and you think it might be a little hot take-ish?
Well, I think Isaiah Simmons wins Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
So I really like that. I think Isaiah Simmons just goes crazy this year and really introduces himself into the NFL. I think that's going to be a ton of fun to watch. I think I think some people don't realize just how freak of an athlete he is. I mean, he's a 6'4" dude, ran a 4.3 40. He came from Clemson. He can rush the passer like Khalil Mack almost. I mean, the dude's insane. So, just watching him is going to be nuts.
Nolan, you asked for a hot take.
I know.
Yeah.
You just go straight to Khalil Mack.
Let's just hope he's not,
You could have said like Clowney or something.
What I expected Robert Nkemdiche to be for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't like talking about Robert Nkemdiche because he was terrible.
Apartment building.
Exactly, he was terrible for the Cardinals.
For the Cardinals, and then it was just came in overweight after the rookie season.
It's funny how far that your high school success can follow you to make you a first-round pick in the NFL because he was the number one recruit. Number one recruit in the entire nation. Never was good in Mississippi or Ole Miss, and it was so good in high school that the hype followed him that he was some freak athlete, but he was never committed to football, and it showed. And he gained a bunch of weight over the offseason after he got that knee injury. I think he got pulled over in Arizona for smoking weed in his car, and then they cut him after that. It was just a huge mess. I mean, the dude just wasn't committed. So it is what it is. But, yeah, I'm pretty excited for Isaiah Simmons. I think he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year.
All right, let's hear your plugs. What do you want to plug today?
Oh, man, that's tough. I don't even know. I mean, you give me a follow at RobertG63 if every Sunday you want to see me bitching about the Cardinals.
There we go. You heard him at RobertG63.
Hey, and get your gamer tag. You're a FIFA man.
Yeah, I'm a huge FIFA guy, so it's consistent luck with 2 C's at the beginning. If you want to hit me there, I will definitely give some lessons on FIFA.
On Xbox, Rob?
Xbox, yes, sir.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Looking forward to that.
It was nice having you, man. Appreciate.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Hopefully I can be back on soon. Let me know. Just shoot me an invite.
Thanks for coming on, Robert.
Thanks, fellas.
It, man.
All right, man. Well, that wraps up episode 18. Well, we're out for this week. We might hit y'all with a live sometime early next week for sure. For sure for our
Fantasy football draft.
Let's talk about the fantasy football before I get out of here. I sent out the invite to the 10 people that joined up. We will be drafting next Tuesday. Right now, I have the draft time set for 7:30 p.m. If it needs to be moved, it can be moved. But we will be going live for the draft, so we'll be doing a live for that. And then we'll be podcasting on Thursday. By the time we go live, we should have games 1 and 2 of that Rockets and Lakers series played out. And I think that they might be playing while we're drafting on Tuesday night. So we'll definitely have a lot of fun with that, man. But yeah, pump for what's to come.
All right. Thank you guys for listening.
See you guys.
I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game, not a game.
Me. Bam, bam. Me, man.
Not a game.
Slap that like she scored 30.
We talking about sports. I mean, what we even talking about, man? We talking about sports here.